The crowd was already screaming long before Bruno Mars stepped onto the stage. And inside Detroit's massive Ford Field, fans quickly realized this would not be an ordinary concert night. What began as a highly anticipated stop on Bruno Mars' romantic tour suddenly transformed into one of the wildest pre-show moments fans had seen all year. By the time the stadium lights dimmed for the official opening act, thousands of people were already on their feet, phones in the air, roaring as if the main event had already started. For many attending the Detroit show, expectations were already sky-high. Bruno Mars concerts have built a reputation for precision, energy, and crowd interaction unlike almost anyone else in modern pop music. But according to fans inside Ford Field, nobody expected the opening performance to ignite the stadium with that level of intensity before Bruno Mars even appeared. The atmosphere outside the venue had hinted that something unusual was brewing. Hours before doors opened, crowds packed the streets surrounding Ford Field wearing retro silk shirts, sequin jackets, and custom Bruno Mars merchandise. Vendors struggled to keep up with the demand as fans rushed toward entrance gates hoping to secure the best possible views. Inside the stadium, the energy escalated immediately when the opening act took the stage. Reports from concertgoers described a sudden explosion of sound, lights, and crowd movement that caught many completely off guard. "It felt like the concert started at full speed from the very first second," said music blogger and Detroit concert analyst Marcus Hill, who attended the event. "Usually people ease into a stadium show. This crowd didn't. The reaction was instant." The opening performer, widely rumored beforehand but never fully confirmed across social media, delivered a set packed with heavy bass, rapid transitions, live improvisation, and unexpected crowd engagement. Within minutes, entire sections of Ford Field were dancing. Fans near the lower bowl seating area described people jumping onto their chairs, waving signs, and screaming lyrics even before the main stage production for Bruno Mars activated. One fan from Chicago who traveled nearly 5 hours for the show described the atmosphere as absolute chaos in the best possible way. "You could feel the stadium shaking," she said. "I've been to arena concerts before, but this felt different." Everyone was already acting like Bruno Mars was on stage. Part of what made the moment so explosive was the surprise factor. Leading into the Detroit concert, most fan discussions online focused almost entirely on Bruno Mars himself. Speculation about stage design, possible setlist changes, and rumored guest appearances dominated TikTok and X throughout the week. Very few anticipated the opening act would become one of the night's biggest talking points. As videos from inside Ford Field began spreading online, clips showing fans screaming, sprinting toward barricades, and reacting emotionally to the performance quickly accumulated hundreds of thousands of views. One viral clip captured an entire stadium section chanting before the opening set had even reached its midpoint. Another showed security guards visibly stunned as waves of fans erupted simultaneously during a beat drop. Entertainment writer Kelly Monroe later described the crowd reaction as closer to playoff sports atmosphere than a traditional concert opener. "That level of noise before the headliner appears is rare," Monroe explained during a local radio segment after the show. "Detroit crowds are passionate, but this was another level entirely." Still, throughout the chaos, the anticipation surrounding Bruno Mars never disappeared. In fact, the intensity of the opening performance seemed to build even more momentum for his eventual entrance. As the final moments of the opening act concluded, Ford Field plunged into darkness. Fans immediately began chanting Bruno Mars' name in unison. Then came the countdown. Massive screens lit up across the stadium while spotlights swept through the crowd. Thousands of phones illuminated the venue like stars. The noise level became almost deafening. And when Bruno Mars finally appeared, the reaction somehow became even louder. Witnesses described an eruption so intense that several audience members could barely hear the opening lines of the first song over the screaming crowd. "It was one giant emotional release," said concert photographer Daniel Reyes. "The opener pushed the audience energy so high that when Bruno Mars walked out, people completely lost control." Detroit show itself quickly evolved into a nonstop spectacle. Bruno Mars moved effortlessly between funk, pop, soul, and R&B while commanding every inch of the massive stage. Wearing a sparkling custom outfit under bright gold lighting, he opened with explosive confidence, immediately feeding off the energy that had already been building for hours inside Ford Field. Industry insiders have repeatedly praised Bruno Mars for understanding live entertainment at a level few artists achieve. Veteran music producer Alan Foster said the singer's greatest strength is his ability to turn a stadium into something that feels personal. "Bruno Mars understands packing better than almost anyone," Foster explained in a recent entertainment panel discussion. "He knows how to create emotional peaks throughout a show. What happened in Detroit proves audiences are emotionally invested before he even sings a note." Throughout the night, fans continued posting real-time reactions online. Hashtags connected to Bruno Mars and Ford Field began trending regionally within hours. Some users compared the atmosphere to iconic stadium moments from previous decades, while others called it one of the loudest concerts Detroit had experienced in years. Several attendees noted that the audience itself became part of the show. Every transition, every lighting cue, and every dance break triggered enormous reactions from the crowd. Even quieter moments drew emotional responses as fans sang along word for word. At one point during the concert, Bruno Mars reportedly paused briefly to absorb the noise from the audience before smiling and pointing toward different sections of the stadium. That interaction only intensified the excitement. He looked genuinely shocked, one fan posted online afterward. Like even he couldn't believe how loud Detroit was. The romantic tour has already generated major attention across North America thanks to its large-scale production, retro-inspired visuals, and high-energy performances. But Detroit appears to have created a particularly memorable stop for both fans and performers alike. Music critic Angela Porter later wrote that the emotional arc of the evening was what separated it from a standard stadium show. The opening act created tension and excitement, Porter explained. Then Bruno Mars entered and delivered the payoff. Structurally, it was almost cinematic. Behind the scenes, concert staff reportedly worked for days preparing the massive technical setup required for Ford Field. According to local production workers, rehearsals involved extensive coordination between lighting teams, pyrotechnic operators, sound engineers, and stage designers. One anonymous crew member described the scale of the production as almost military-level precision. Are so many moving parts during a Bruno Mars concert, the crew member said. Everything has to hit perfectly on time. Fans only see the final result, but the preparation is enormous. That preparation appeared to pay off. By the second half of the show, Ford Field had transformed into a sea of synchronized lights, movement, and nonstop audience participation. Fans danced through aisles, sang choruses at full volume, and continued filming nearly every major moment. Even after the concert ended, crowds lingered outside the venue for hours discussing what they had witnessed. For many attendees, the biggest surprise remained the emotional intensity before Bruno Mars even arrived on stage. That opener changed the mood completely, said Detroit resident Jasmine Carter after the show. Everybody came in excited for Bruno Mars, but suddenly the entire stadium was already exploding before he appeared. I've honestly never seen that happen like this. Social media engagement surrounding the concert continued rising throughout the following morning. Clips from the opening act and Bruno Mars' entrance dominated entertainment feeds across TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Analysts say those viral reactions highlight the growing importance of live event unpredictability in modern music culture. The social media era, fans want moments they feel nobody else experienced, explained entertainment strategist Noah Bennett. That Detroit show created multiple viral moments before the headline performance even fully began. More footage emerged online. Viewers who were not present at Ford Field expressed shock at the crowd volume and intensity. Comments flooded videos with reactions like, "I've never heard a stadium this loud. Detroit understood the assignment. This feels bigger than a normal concert." Bruno Mars fans are unmatched. The event also reinforced Bruno Mars' continued dominance as a live performer in an industry increasingly driven by streaming numbers and online visibility. While many artists rely heavily on visual production alone, critics say Bruno Mars continues to thrive because of genuine audience connection. He performs like an old-school entertainer, said radio host Chris Lambert. There's choreography, musicianship, charisma, and timing. Younger audiences still respond to that. The end of the night, one thing had become clear inside Ford Field. This was more than another stop on a major tour. It became an experience fans immediately felt compelled to share online. And ironically, one of the most unforgettable parts happened before Bruno Mars even sang his first note. That opening act transformed anticipation into hysteria. It turned a packed stadium into an emotional pressure cooker waiting to explode. And when Bruno Mars finally emerged under the lights, Detroit delivered one of the loudest reactions of the entire tour so far. For fans inside Ford Field, it was the kind of concert moment that cannot be recreated through clips alone. You had to feel the vibration in the seats. You had to hear the screams echo through the stadium ceiling. You had to witness thousands of strangers reacting together in real time. Because for one unforgettable night in Detroit, the show became insane before the main event had even begun.